And now presenting The Young Man's Manifesto, written and narrated by Ben Cricken. Introduction. It's hard to be a young man these days. There are so many voices giving wildly different advice on how to live your life and the pathways to success. It's exhausting trying to sort through all the different opinions. Right off the bat, you should know that there's no one-size-fits-all for living life. Depending on your personality and definitions, what success looks like will vary massively from person to person. Why should you listen to me? Why will taking precious time out of your day to read this be valuable to you? Great question. I am a normal-ish guy. I wasn't born into wealth or poverty. I don't have an Ivy League education or letters next to my name. I've been alive for 30 years. I've worked a lot of different jobs, from minimum wage to skilled trades and some things in between. I'm not out to sell you anything, besides this book, of course. I've worked with youth, teen boys especially, for just over a decade. I've seen rapidly growing levels of confusion and directionlessness that are quite concerning. I genuinely want to see young men thrive in our society, but there seems to be a distinct lack of actionable and realistic advice being given. Hopefully I can fill this gap to some degree. The world of self-help and self-actualization oftentimes falls into extremes. Young men are usually given advice that's hyperbolic, with unrealistic and unsustainable levels of expectation. The world is made up of mostly normal dudes doing their best. Average men. People will tell you that average is unacceptable and that being a true man is only possible by achieving high levels of wealth and status. You must distinguish yourself from the losers and the normies, as the internet would say. That's simply not true. You can make a difference. You can achieve great things and contribute to the world in a meaningful way. But that path will end up looking very different from the path laid out to you by popular culture. You won't find your success or happiness in the stereotypes being presented to you. I think we can all agree that we're living in strange times. I'm sure this could be said of many eras throughout history, but the current pace of technological advancement and globalization is mind-blowing. In the last 10 years alone, the rate of change has accelerated even more. All this craziness is creating so much uncertainty about how to succeed and making it much harder to adapt. Before the last 250 years of human history, life was more or less predictable. Occupations were generational. If your dad was a farmer, you were a farmer. If your dad was a blacksmith, so were you. But this is no longer the case. The job that your dad worked during your childhood might not exist anymore. Stranger still, the job you worked 3 years ago might not exist anymore. Because of this, choosing a career, life path, or even just a step in the right direction can feel like an insurmountable task. How are you supposed to choose a new way forward if you don't even know what the world will look like in a year, a month, or even a few days? The world is full of people with different personalities and interests. Despite the differences, it would seem that we all inhabit the same relatively tiny space rock. This rock seems to have a discernible and objective reality. You need to have a worldview that matches this reality as closely as possible. If you don't, you'll be confused about your failures and find yourself unable to effectively navigate the world. Gravity doesn't stop existing just because you want to fly. Facing the truth of reality is hard, but it's a lot better to see things clearly and adapt than to deny reality and become resentful. I want to be clear. When I talk about viewing reality correctly, I'm not talking about visualization or manifesting your destiny through the power of positive thinking. That philosophy is garbage. Although perception can deeply affect how we experience the world, you cannot manifest a tuna sandwich with your thoughts. The worldview that I will present to you in this book is my honest assessment of what I've discovered while living a normal-ish life. I'm not a nihilist or pessimist, but I do have a fairly harsh view of things compared to modern standards. Despite this intense perspective, I tend to live my life as a genuinely happy person. Being realistic about the world can actually allow us to experience happiness in a more tangible way. Like I said, I'm just a regular guy. I'm smack dab in the middle of circumstantial distribution, in terms of Western countries. What is unique about me is that I've been speedrunning adulthood for a while now. I moved out when I was 17, got married when I was 19, and then had my first kid when I was 21. All these choices made me face reality very quickly. I had to take the feedback I was receiving from the world and implement the necessary changes. I was forced into mandatory critical self-perception early on. It exposed the lies that I was believing and the truths that I wasn't willing to face. For years, I wanted to write a book about my experiences to help others who had been told the same lies, but I never felt qualified or old enough to give advice. Who was I to tell someone what to do, especially when I had made very atypical life choices? The more I've observed the world, the more I realize almost everyone is making it up as they go along. There's no perfect or standard life, and there's no one coming to give you papers to certify that you're an adult. I'm just as weird and uncertain as everyone else, but I've noticed some patterns and learned truths that have helped me tremendously. I would like to think that I have a fairly solid grasp on reality. I may be wrong about some things, but you can learn something from everyone, even if it's just what not to do. I don't claim to have all of the answers. No one can know everything. Most of what I've written here is common sense, although in today's world, common sense is not as common as we might hope. You may be able to find better advice put more eloquently by someone else. What I hope to uniquely offer you is my succinct and honest perspective on adulthood and how to operate effectively as a man. If you find yourself wanting to strike out on your own for the first time or suddenly thrown into responsibility, I hope that this book offers you a beneficial path forward. You might be reading this because it directly relates to you, but this book isn't just for young men. Maybe you're a little older and struggling to make sense of life, or maybe you're feeling lost and overwhelmed. Whatever the case may be, I know what it's like to feel uncertain and unprepared, and I still feel that way sometimes. There are moments when it feels like the world is falling apart and the future is hopeless, but it's not over. You're still breathing, and the fat lady has yet to sing. Things can get better. Even if this book doesn't directly apply to you, I hope that you find it helpful and encouraging anyway. As I said previously, stress and resentment build up when our worldview doesn't match our experience of reality. My hope is that this book helps you align your worldview with truth and makes it easier to effectively navigate the world and adulthood. Life is strange and nuanced, but sometimes a new perspective can help clear out the cobwebs of confusion wrapped around your brain. As I stated before, you may not agree with me on everything. That's good. We're all individuals. Just know that I'm trying to reveal the truth as I perceive it. And this worldview has helped me tremendously as I've lived life. This book is short. This may bother you or make you doubt the level of intellectual depth, but there's a reason for my brevity. I actually want you to read the whole thing. That may never happen if there are 400 pages. Most books are longer than they need to be because people feel the need to bloviate on the journey to give the information. I will try to give you the best information I can as succinctly as possible. I've thrown in a little bit of humor as well, just to keep things interesting. Each chapter is mostly a standalone piece. I go over lots of different topics, including bits of philosophy, religion, and personal experience. They're all connected, but feel free to jump around as you apply each section to your life. Thanks for taking the time to read this. I don't take the privilege of your time lightly. I hope that this book ends up adding value to you. So without further ado, let's get into the manifesto.